Britain's news channel.
You're with GB News. In a moment, headliners. But first, let's get the latest news headlines. Unions have condemned a newly proposed law that will enforce minimum service levels for public sector workers during industrial action. The bill will apply to health, fire, education, transport and border security services. And under the proposed law, unions could be sued and staff could be sacked if adequate cover isn't provided during times of strikes. The leader of the RMT has called the proposal an attack on human rights, and the TUC says it's going to hold a national Protect the Right to Strike Day on the 1st of February. Well, the Business Secretary, Grant Shapps, told Parliament the measures would, however, protect the public.
To deny and to vote against legislation that brings in minimum safety levels to help our constituents is to attack their security and their welfare.
Labour has vowed to repeal the legislation if it wins the next general election. The Deputy Leader, Angela Rayner, says the NHS was failing before the strikes began.
Is my constituent Spina, who waited over an hour for an ambulance, who died waiting for an ambulance, and that was not on a strike day. That is because of the disastrous chaos we have in the system under this Conservative government.
Well, ambulance workers in England and Wales are set to go out on strike tomorrow after talks with the government over pay failed to reach a resolution. It's the first industrial action within the health sector this year, with nurses in England also set to walk out later this month. The Health Secretary has described the action as unhelpful, but insisted he is working with trade unions. Now, a Romanian court has upheld the detention of the controversial social media influencer Andrew Tate after he appealed against their ruling. The once self-proclaimed misogynist will remain in police custody for the full 30 days, alongside his brother and 2 female suspects, pending an investigation. The 4 face 29 charges, including forming an organised crime group to sexually exploit 6 young women. They've all denied any wrongdoing. And the family of a British man who's gone missing in Ukraine say they're very worried and concerned about his health and whereabouts. Ukrainian police say Chris Parry, aged 48, and another Brit, Andrew Bagshaw, aged 28, are voluntary workers. It's understood they left the city of Kramatorsk for the town of Soledar on Friday morning and then were reported missing on Saturday evening. The region's currently under intense fighting between Kyiv and Moscow's forces. Those are the latest news stories, and you are up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. You're with GB News, where now it's time for headliners.
Hello, I'm Andrew Doyle, and welcome to Headliners, your first look at Wednesday's papers. Joining me tonight, we've photoshopped in 2 of the UK's finest comedians, Leo Kearse and Scott Capurro. But first, let's take a quick peek at tomorrow's front pages. The Telegraph is running with "Saving the planet is not our job," says Fed chief. The Guardian has angry unions plan a day of action over anti-strike bill. The front cover of the Mirror has Johnson living in £20 million home for free. Meanwhile, 123,000 children in this country are homeless. Daily Express, nurses, clock is ticking, Rishi, do a deal for Britain. And The Sun has a nuke plot smashed at Heathrow. Apparently a uranium shipment was intercepted by authorities. The Daily Star has, there's a guy works down the bus depot, swears he's Elvis. We will, of course, be covering that key and important story. Those were your front pages. And let's kick off with the front page of the Telegraph. Leo, what are they running with?
So their main story is saving the planet is not our job, says the chief of the Fed, Jerome Powell. So he said institutions should not wade into social issues beyond their remit. And I agree with him. I mean, the central bank should deal with inflation. I think that's quite a big issue right now, and that's enough to take up anybody's full attention. They don't need to worry about doomsday cults or climate change or anything like that. There is a bit of a rift amongst financial lords at the moment. So Jerome Powell and Mervyn King, who's a former boss of the Bank of England, agree that banks should stick to banking. But China's central bank, obviously, they want to control everything, and also the former head of the Bank of England, or the former Bank of England Governor Mark Carney, who's now a special envoy to the United Nations on climate change. He says that we should be tackling climate change because everything's about virtue signalling now instead of actually doing a job.
Good, haven't they? I mean, on the whole, it's mostly corporations. It's mostly like Ben and Jerry's ice cream, sort of lecturing everyone about toxic masculinity, and that kind of thing. But the banks, they're just restricting this to climate change. Is that right?
Well, Ben and Jerry's do it as advertising. It's free advertising for Ben and Jerry's. If they can get everybody sharing a picture of their diabetes-causing ice cream and pretend that it's some sort of social justice campaign.
That they pour plastic into, by the way, to keep it from melting.
Yeah. They pour plastic into
Yes,
the
you're
ice
eating
cream.
plastic when you're eating ice cream.
OK, I mean, I should say I cannot verify that rumour here live on air, but nevertheless, don't you think, Scott, though, that actually the Bank of England should be there to talk about money, and just money, really?
Well, I'm a fan of Mark Carney's, for one thing, so don't put him down. But also, he's quite tall, looks good in a Gucci suit. But I think what they're saying is they should be investing in ideas that help promote the idea that we're all meant to be saving the planet and spending money at the same time. So they're looking for the kind of thing they can drop cash into that will bring the temperature down to the water.
You don't agree with Leo that this is virtue signalling or trying to appear relevant?
Well, virtue signaling is fine if it's for a good cause, I think. I mean, there's no way to signal for a good cause unless you are promoting your own virtue.
Yeah, what's so wrong with that, Leo? I mean, if we have a climate catastrophe around the corner, why shouldn't
what's next? Are they then going to be, making sure there's enough, people under 3 foot represented in Ryanair staff? I mean, where does it end? This sort of getting involved in social activism, and also, there's a couple of things wrong with it. It's going to distract them from their core mission of actually dealing with inflation, dealing with money.
Is there an issue with that at the moment?
There is a bit of an issue with it. So this isn't the time to be taking the eye off the ball. And also, the government's response to climate change is going to do more damage than climate change itself. Governments are notoriously terrible at doing things, so we don't need to.
That's why the banks should deal with it, because they're much better at looking after themselves. But also, I think they're saying that working on climate change will improve the economy and help with the inflationary problems.
OK, well, we're going to turn to the front page of The Sun. Scott, what are The Sun doing today? Because they've been dropping the ball lately with their front covers. What's this one? This is quite dramatic.
The nuke plot smashed at Heathrow.
Well, that's a proper story.
Well, right? It is a good story. It's a really good one. On December 29th, apparently, a plane was flying in from Pakistan via Oman, and it landed at Terminal 4, and it landed on time, so immediately they're suspicious.
Yeah. They would be.
Yeah.
I mean, that is suspicious.
Yeah,
right?
of course. There were people on it, but they weren't worried about that. Like, why is this plane making its schedule? And they looked in and they found a big box that looked really super heavy, guys. And inside was uranium. And they're like, oh, that's bad, or is it good? Or bad and good?
So, I mean, look, there's uranium in this thing, and uranium generally can be used, to create a dirty
to make
bomb?
nuclear bombs, yeah.
OK, and it's come from Pakistan via Oman.
Yeah, and it was meant for some Iranian nationals living in the UK. And so they're going to trace down that. They said, they named the business. That's the thing about these stories. The Sun is brilliant. They laid out all the strategy. It's all been revealed. So if you're involved with this, you've scrambled all the way.
Why are the police
you've already left.
checking suspicious packages from Pakistan? Sounds Islamophobic to me.
Right. Isn't it? I thought these people is destined for Iranian nationals who are just bringing cultural enrichment and
in the form of uranium.
Not uranium enrichment. Yeah, they should have, instead of trying to bring it in on a plane, which the stuff in there gets scanned, they should have brought it across on. I'd just bring it across the channel. Nobody checks that stuff.
Well, at least they intercepted it. I mean, it does make you think how much they don't intercept.
Well, that's what they said. Yeah. They said, see, we're doing a really good job, and sometimes if we mess up, oh, well, there's a balance, right? Yeah.
But it's easy to find uranium nuclear materials because the drug sniffer dog dies.
Yeah, it did, yeah. And it also said that there is protocol to follow. Like, they're meant to keep that uranium far away from the passengers, and the uranium box was too close. That's how they noticed it. Like, oh, this is too close to the ceiling where the passengers are sitting, and they open up the... Well, that's kind of bad.
It's scary. Scary stuff. We're going to go to the Mirror now. Leo, what's the front cover of the Mirror look like for Wednesday?
So it's got a picture of Boris Johnson. This is the big gotcha in the Mirror. Scandalously, Boris is living in his mate's house.
Yeah.
Is that it?
They say it's for free. They don't know if it's for free or not. So they say former Prime Minister Boris Johnson is living in a £20 million property on one of the UK's most expensive streets. A neighbouring property is being offered for rent for £30,000 a month. I mean, I'm sorry he's not living in a caravan in Swansea. So what do they expect?
What's the story here?
The point they're making is that in Britain, 123,000 children are homeless right now.
Yes.
And Boris Johnson's living in a
Are
20 million...
they?
Yeah.
They're not actually, like, living in cardboard boxes
Some are
under
hitchhiking and, some are hanging out in my garden. But a lot of them are living in boxes or something.
so
in
really-
the woods. They're little woodsy creatures.
So this article is really just a way to sort of identify the difference between rich and poor, which we know about.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a weird way to tack onto this story because ultimately Boris Johnson's mates are rich.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
friends are going to be rich. So if he's staying at some friend's house, it's going to be a rich house.
The weird thing is, it's kind of a trashy backpack in the photo. It's like, why can't he up the grade on the backpack?
No, that's a very good point.
He's trying to look poor. He's trying to appeal to mirror readers when he's walking down the street.
The thing is, homeless kids, like, it's a terrible thing, but it's not really Boris's problem. He's not the leader anymore.
It does seem like a very tenuous story to me. Anyway, we're going to go to the front cover of The Guardian. Have they got something a little better?
Oh, well, the church is going to spend money now because they feel bad. Is that what I'm reading about? No, I'm reading something.
No.
Oh, the angry union thing. Sorry. Yeah, the Guardian right about the public sector strikes. The row is escalating now as the unions are planning a coordinated day of action. They're saying it's not a coordinated day of action. They said that they're just angry and they're going to raise their fists and yell, but it is because they're not meant to be coordinating days of action because they've done that already. It didn't work.
Yeah. Oh, this seems to be going on, and it does feel like the government isn't really making any progress. It felt like they were making some progress. There was a deal sort of almost on the table.
No, but it's off the table now. They want real terms pay and they want staff shortages looked after, but the government's saying nothing about that. It says here, unions and Labour said the proposal for statutory minimum service levels in 6 areas, health, education, ambulance, transport, fire, border security, and nuclear decommissioning, would exacerbate disputes.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's getting
So are we going to go through with this sort of minimum service requirements? I believe so. Is that happening, Leo? Do we know?
Yeah, I mean, there seem to be some pretty serious strikes coming up. So paramedics are going on strike as a result of this not being resolved, and that's serious because border control, border force go on strike, and they can be replaced by anybody. You just need to look at a passport and say that's okay.
Yeah.
But a paramedic, they've got to actually do stuff like resuscitate you.
Well, so do nurses,
And nurses, yeah, they do serious stuff. Doctors.
It's 2 million public sector people that are really angry, and the government can't seem to get even a foot in the door with
But
them.
people can't survive on what they're earning.
No, they can't.
So, I mean, nurses should be paid more. And if they were paid more, maybe we wouldn't be in this mess.
They should be paid more, but people can survive on what they're getting paid. I think that's a bit of a nonsense. They're just not paid enough.
So if there were minimum service requirements and there was a kind of skeletal staff to deal with the basics, you would be in support of strikes? I
think they should pay baristas more because I have to pay £5 for a coffee at Starbucks and they throw it at me like they're angry, like I pooped on their shoe. So I think they need to be paid higher. Also, my husband's a barista, and
that's what this is really about.
He's one of those homeless children you'd write about with Boris, basically.
Right, we're going to go now on to The Star. Now, The Star always buck the trend with their front covers. Leo, what on earth have they gone with?
So they've got a picture of a guy dressed as Elvis, and he is some guy who spent £10,000. Remember Ollie of London, or whatever his name was?
Ollie London?
Ollie London.
Not Ollie of London.
Is that
I don't even think he's... No, he's not the medieval knight.
Ollie of London. But so he spent loads of money to look like a Korean woman, I think it was.
Yes, that's right.
And now this bus inspector, inspired possibly by that, has spent £10,000 to look like, instead of a K-pop superstar, he wants to look like Elvis. And yeah, you can see, I mean, that £10,000 really been spent well.
But wait a minute, this isn't plastic surgery in the way that Ollie London got to look Korean.
No,
this is just, he just bought a really expensive, bright jacket.
Yeah, and
he
sort of looks like, I mean, Elvis, if he was still alive and he washed up on a beach somewhere, I guess he'd look a bit like this. But
I think that might be a wig. Maybe might be a wig.
But
wigs can be pricey.
Not that pricey.
Well, if it's real human hair, it is. Yeah, it depends on how you get it too.
Right, but okay. Again,
male hair is more expensive because so many men are bald.
But not much of a story, again, is it? It's just someone spending a lot of money.
It's the Daily Star.
Yeah.
This is only just above the mirror.
Can he sing? Did it say if he can sing or not?
Well, this guy is he a performer? Is that what it's about?
No, he's a ticket inspector on a bus.
Oh, so he's just obsessed.
Yeah. I'm just amazed. What bus has got a ticket inspector? Wait, is this the 1940s? Is it Hogwarts or something?
Okay.
Yeah.
Look,
He's only 52. Wow.
I'm going to put a stop to this. That's it for part one. After the break, we're going to take a look at Wednesday's top stories, including Boris Johnson being literally wiped out, why minorities might not want to work for the Labour Party, and it seems that Andrew Tate is not going to be eating pizza anytime soon. See you in a moment.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle. I'm joined by two top comedians and OnlyFans superstars, Leo Kearse and Scott Capurro. Scott, we're going to kick off with Wednesday's Mirror. And have you ever used Photoshop to hide anything, or do you just use it to make things bigger?
I've used Photoshop for all sorts of purposes.
Yeah.
You know, because my actual size intimidates people, so I have to shrink to make people feel better about themselves.
Yeah.
So I minimize. I like to minimize. I'm like Barbara. Boris Johnson was photoshopped out of Grant Shep's tweet with the failed UK rocket. Apparently, there's an image of Shep's.
Well, I think we've got the image.
Yeah, it was taken on June 9th, 2021.
It's a bit mean to refer to Grant Shapps as a failed UK rocket.
Yeah.
He's gone.
But it's terrible. Yeah. You can see Boris's elbow right under the plane if you look really close.
Oh, really?
So they didn't do that good
They
a
didn't
job.
get the elbow out. So Shapps ran the photos of he was there recently, and then people were like, no, you weren't, and then that photo's
But that's actually, I mean, that's Stalinist. That's exactly what Stalin did when he got rid of people. When people had disappeared, they would then be taken out of photographs.
But Shapps wants to look cool, and it looks like he's laughing at the plane, like saying, oh, this plane's never going to make it, and maybe he's trying to be like, see, I was right.
But he says he had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, he said it wasn't.
He says it wasn't him at all.
He pointed fingers at the office, and the office said it wasn't us either. Who did it?
Somebody did it.
Yeah,
somebody must have hacked into his Photoshop and done it. Yeah, that's the.
So he wants to distance himself from Boris Johnson.
No, he said that he was really happy to serve under the Prime Minister, and it says Prime Minister on Boris's little jacket. He says, "See, I served under him."
So then, what's going on? Have you got the mystery solved, Leo?
I think he's lying when he says he was happy to be seen with Boris Johnson, happy to serve under him. But it's weird that, I mean, Grant Shapps is a failed sort of semi-con artist type guy. He ran this sort of pyramid scheme. Type thing, and he's had various sort of get-rich-quick schemes. One of them was literally a get-rich-quick scheme.
Are you suggesting he's not trustworthy?
No. Yeah, I'm suggesting he's very not trustworthy. I'm amazed. I'm amazed he made it into politics.
But the thing is, he will go on camera and say things they tell him to say. He's a real puppet for them, and they'll just hand him a script and he'll repeat it.
But the idea of posting a photograph that's been posted online before and modifying it and thinking you're going to get away with that is absolutely ridiculous.
But I think they do it all the time.
You should see the websites that for some of his get-rich-quick schemes, because they are the most garish. I mean, he should be selling sunglasses or something, because to look at them, it's like looking at the web in like 1996 when it first came out. There's only about 7 primary colours and everything's just clashing.
One image is a photo of a pyramid with the word scheme pointing toward it, with his face smiling on the side.
Goodness sake. Well, we're going to move on to Wednesday's Telegraph now. And Leo, surprisingly, they've written a story that makes Labour look bad. Is this a justified story?
Absolutely. So Labour, always bang on about how much they're into equality, diversity and inclusion, but it turns out that Labour actually pay their black and minority staff 9% less than white staff because Labour are systemically racist and they should be abolished.
Leo, that is a misleading headline. The headline says Labour pays black and minority staff 9% less than white people. That's not true.
It is true.
They don't pay black people 9% less than white people for the same work. It's again like this gender pay gap thing. It's about averages.
They don't let black people into positions of seniority. So, like Keir Starmer, for example, I don't know if you've noticed, but he's white. Whereas if you look at the Conservative Party, the boss, the top guy, the Conservative Party, Rishi Sunak,
is rich.
Isn't this just an example of where people are assuming that any inequality of outcome must be down to racism?
Well, I think if you're on the side that always bangs on about how we must have no inequality and all this sort of stuff, then yes, it's hypocritical to have inequality on your side. I think it'd be fine for it to happen in the Tory party because they're not so beholden to these woke ideologies.
Come on, Scott, I mean, this is unfair, isn't it?
Look, I wish I was black in showbiz. Because I was just looking at a list of the top 10 earners in showbiz in the US, and they're all black people.
Yeah.
And I make 150 pounds a show. I can't survive.
Scott,
I'm going to be a homeless child hitchhiking.
And imagine if you're trying to get cast in an advert.
Seriously.
Yeah, but this isn't about us or comedians or about actors. It is about members of staff for the Labour Party. I think this is an unfair attack, personally. I think this is...
No, it's not, because Sir Keir Starmer, I'm using the Sir, because give him his full honours, like Sir Jimmy Savile, but Sir Keir Starmer is going to he's going to oblige large companies to reveal their ethnicity pay gap. So the fact that he's using it as a stick to sort of, a flag to sort of wave and say, oh, look, we're so virtuous, we're going to force companies to do this. And then he's doing it himself.
But this only matters if the company in question is paying people of colour less than white people.
For the same job.
For the same job, because that is illegal.
Well,
that's why it matters.
Well, somebody needs to tell Keir Starmer about that, because he's bringing this out for everyone, and he fails in his own test.
OK, well, on to The Guardian next. And Scott, another census story, but are we in the right part of the UK to be able to understand it?
We are. We're in the smart part. London is where people go when they want jobs if they have a good degree. So that's what this says, basically. If you have a degree, you go to London, because in London, 50% of the population have a degree. If you have a degree and you want to serve coffee, then stay in the Midlands, because people are stupid there.
That is effectively what the story is about, is that people further up are not as...
The farther north you go, the more it comes like that.
I don't think that is true.
It's what it says in the article.
That might be what the article is intimating. Actually, they're talking specifically about university degrees, higher education. I mean...
Ironically, I got my degree in the West Midlands. I was the only person who got a degree that year. So this statistic must be true.
The only person in the West Midlands?
In all of Birmingham that got a degree that year, yeah.
So, but what I find interesting about this is this dates back to to Tony Blair's tenure, when it was all about getting people into university, how important it is.
But his numbers that he quoted are correct now. He wanted about 50%, and that is what the number is in London.
But that's not necessarily the right way to go about it, because, there is no correlation necessarily between going to university and being intelligent. Some of the smartest people I know didn't go to university, and they're earning a whole lot more than a lot of us.
Name 3 of them.
I'm not going to do that.
You're a liar.
Also,
you're lying. You're lying right now. You've
met some of them, Scott.
I have, but and I stopped talking to them because they were idiots. You're an educator yourself. You know how important it is.
It's important for people of that kind of mind. But the apprenticeships going into sort of the crafts, the trades, you can earn a lot of money that way, and it can be a smarter thing to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Becoming a plumber, an electrician, a welder. Like
my
brother's going into welding. Like there's way more money and stuff because everybody forgot that you need somebody to make actual real things instead of just work out, inclusion policy and sit behind a computer.
Why is it snobbish to say that some people just aren't academic? That's not snobbish.
Because we assume that people who aren't academic are also not lovers of the arts, so they don't contribute to the creative society we live in, that they don't take part.
Yeah, but I'm no good at panel beating. We've all got our role.
Right.
And also, panel beaters have got the money to enjoy the arts, which nobody who went to university does. If you're working, doing some sort of daft, one of these typey jobs with your soft little hands.
Again, this is another story about let's identify inequality of outcome and try and re-engineer things and fix it.
I'm overeducated and understimulated and dehydrated, but I can't stand the theater. I go to the RSC, I don't want to put a bullet between my head.
Yeah. It is quite bad at the moment.
It's horrible.
It's
all
punishment.
That
it's punishment for rich people. Opera is punishment for rich people.
They're all drunks. You have to be drunk to sit through that garbage.
Yeah.
Staying with The Guardian now for an interesting story of how perhaps not all gender recognition certificates are equal. Leo, what's this?
Well, yeah, so the UK is reviewing its gender recognition list, and and they say it risks a trans travel ban. So a lot of countries around the world, Australia, New Zealand, now Scotland as well. Scotland has passed
Sweden,
this thing. They basically made it so you can just self-declare your gender. So I can just say, hey, I'm a woman, and then
You told me you're a woman the other day.
Yeah, I'm gender fluid.
I'm more than a woman, actually.
Oh, are you? This
More
is
than
good
a
because
woman
we're
to
seeking
me.
diversity on the panel, and you've both achieved it.
Yeah.
But this is weird. Like, who is it who came up with this phrase, trans travel ban? Because it's the most ridiculous.
The LGBTIQ
hyperbolic-
plus rights guy did. I read about it here in the article.
It's
Isn't it?
so
He's quoted here.
It's not a
Somebody in the Guardian.
It's
Yeah.
not
The
a
Guardian.
trans travel ban. The whole point is that.
Mr. McFarlane came up with it. That's his name.
Well, Mr. McFarlane is an idiot because, like, the whole point of this, it's a measure to protect women from people self-identifying.
Yeah.
And exploiting that loophole. That's the point of this.
Yeah,
like, the Scottish system now is obviously going to be open to those who want to exploit it.
Like
obviously.
me. I'm definitely
Right.
going to exploit it.
So why should someone who gets a gender recognition certificate in your country be allowed to use that to get into women's spaces in this country? That doesn't seem fair at all.
Exactly, and it's the same with a driving licence. It's similar. You've got to pass a test and satisfy an examiner that you can drive. Whereas, Scotland would just make it. You don't have to satisfy anybody that you've changed your gender. You just need to just say, hey, look, I can drive now. I can drive a car. It's like, well, now there's a big pile-up in the motorway.
Scott, this is constantly framed as like, these reactionary people who are suggesting that trans people are predators. No one's saying that. What they're saying is that there are men who will lie about who and what they are to get access to vulnerable women. And, men do that a lot.
I wish the media would not use it as such a weapon, though, to sell papers, because really most of the trans community, I would imagine, in this country, in the US definitely, and in the world, would rather just live their lives and not be seen as a symbol either way.
But I don't think it's the newspaper's fault. I think it's these politicians and activists who aren't trans, or aren't trans as we know them.
Like Mr. McFarlane.
Yeah, they're big lumpy blokes a lot of the time. They want to. They're sort of subsuming themselves into the trans movement, but they're not really. Transgender people, by and large, pass pretty much, and everybody respects them as the gender that they're living as.
It's confusing because we used to call them transsexuals.
Yeah.
And these were people who went through horrible, painful surgery, incredible measures, really difficult. It's not an easy life to live.
Yeah.
And they did all this stuff, but now the trans umbrella has become so broad. That
Which might be a good thing in a way, because, when I was first coming out in the 80s, the 1880s, it was difficult. It was difficult for trans people to find any sort of acceptance, and even in San Francisco, and definitely on a comedy or performance stage. And they were definitely shunned by their own LGBT community, because a lot of lesbians and gay men felt like, well, these people shouldn't adopt a gender if they haven't suffered through it as children.
But I don't.
So I like now that young people don't see a difference.
But I don't think it helps trans people when you conflate those people who suffer from genuine gender dysphoria with male fetishists who get off on wearing a dress, which is what's happening.
But then what it should be left to, this is why the Scottish law bothers me, it should be left to a psychiatrist to talk to this person and see that there should be some sort of criteria.
But
because there's a government policy that needs criteria.
That's what we're saying, and what we're saying is that the Scottish government has said, "No, we don't need that."
I know, yeah.
You can just say anything because no predatory man has ever lied to a woman.
Nicola Sturgeon's going to be Nick Sturgeon soon. I think that's what this is all about.
Oh, is that what it is? Maybe it is. OK, we're going to finish this section with Wednesday's Eye and more on the Andrew Tate saga. Scott, what's this?
Well, Andrew Tate, as we all know, is hot. And he's lost a bid to be freed from a Romanian prison. He's in Bucharest. And they showed him leaving the courtroom and having not gotten what he wanted. He wanted to
what
be
did he
released.
want?
Well, he thought that he was going to go away for 24 hours, but they've had him there, and they've given him a 30-day sentence, he and his brother, and 2 women that he's with.
OK.
And they've all been put away for basically making porn films. That's what they're doing.
I see.
But he hasn't been convicted of anything.
No,
He's just being held on remand.
Yeah, right. He's only being remanded.
OK. I imagine you saying the phrase Andrew Tate is hot is what's going to get clipped.
Oh, did I say that?
Online. Yeah, you said it out loud. You said it out loud. And
correct.
You need that interior filter.
I'm not going to make the edit, but he is delicious. And also, it's a strange case because we were talking about, like, these women agreed to appear on camera, and they thought that he was in love with them when they said yes.
That's what they're saying, isn't it?
And then
a whole warehouse full. There's like
women.
350 women, and they're all like, oh, he loves me.
He's got a lot of love to give.
Are there any women out there who have any agency or common sense?
Well, not that have anything to do with this case.
We don't know what happened in this case. We just don't know.
We can make things up.
Yeah.
We're a news channel, so we can't.
What's interesting is that he was actually holding a Quran when he came out of court or went into court.
Handcuffed with a Quran in his hand.
And when you convert to Islam, you instantly get absolved of all prior sins.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know what to make
If
of
I was
that,
going to have to
really.
read a Crown, they'd have to handcuff me too.
Going to move on.
Be that garbage.
We are halfway through the show, and join us after the break. Where we're going to be talking about the secondary school where relationships are banned, not only with teachers. Why watching football can mean your door will be getting kicked in, and we're also going to hear about a heroic porn-sniffing police dog. See you in a moment.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel. Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Wednesday's newspapers. And let's get straight to it with The Independent and news of the fastest selling non-fiction book ever.
Yeah.
Is it my book?
The New Puritans, you should plug that. Give them the title.
It's not that book.
It's not. I'm sure that was close behind.
It's up there.
It's Prince Harry's autobiography, Spare, which you might have heard of if you've watched GB News over the last couple of weeks.
Or any news channel.
Yeah. So it recorded figures of 400,000 copies on its first day of publication. Although that's across hardback, ebook, and audio formats. So that's like including downloads in your.
Is he reading the audio version himself? That would send me to sleep, that voice.
I hope so. I mean, do you think he could... I didn't know he could read.
No, well, exactly, that's the issue. So someone else will have to do it for him.
But yeah, I mean, I've got no idea why so many people are buying it.
I don't know.
Because I feel like I've read the whole thing about 5 times.
I've seen the good bits on TV already, right?
Well, that's the thing. Is like he's leaked so many of the most interesting anecdotes.
Yeah.
And there's this thing about how the Spanish version came out 5 days in advance. That must have been deliberate, right? Because all of the press has been all over this with all of these stories.
It came out early in Japan, too.
Oh, it did.
The Japanese are obsessed with the royals, much more than anywhere else, really.
400,000, though. The publisher said he needs to sell 1.7 million for the publisher to break even.
Oh, God.
So
they gave him so much money.
Well on his way, though.
I thought... Are you saying that it's an autobiography? I thought it was an Agatha Christie book when I heard about it.
Yeah, it sounds like one, doesn't
it must be a murder mystery, because we know what this is really about. Who killed my mommy? Right? That's what this is about.
Goodness
No,
me.
that's what it's about, because he doesn't know. And he knows he doesn't know, because he's not really a bloodline. He's not. We all know he's not.
Well, I don't know he's not.
He's not a bloodline, and so they won't tell him the secrets. And William knows all the secrets. That's why William got a bigger room, and William got a hotter wife, because William knows all the lies and stuff.
Scott is full of speculation, wild speculation.
Well, this is the thing. If Prince William ever decided to bring his own book out, man, he could just like one DNA
and tell us who killed her, because he knows.
Yeah. So this will be interesting because the royal family have just been really quiet, and maybe that is the right way to deal with this, rather than get into a war of.
But
who
he
said
had to
what?
get his wife out of the country.
I think Prince William should come on GB News. I think that would be the best.
Of course he
course
should.
of action
I'm sure he's been invited. I'm sure
we have
he's
mutual
considering it.
friends.
Yeah, it might happen. OK, we're going to move on to the next story. This is The Guardian now. Scott, it seems that the Church of England now think that slavery is wrong. That's
Did
a
you
step in
know
the
that
right
the
direction.
Church of England has a £9 billion plus endowment fund?
I mean, I know it's rich.
Well endowed.
Yeah, but some of those churches are in terrible condition.
They are, but they're difficult to maintain, Scott.
Really?
When-
£9 billion.
When you have a big house, it's hard.
It's true. It cost £1,000 to put a new ceiling in my toilet. It was
Well, exactly.
crazy.
So imagine having a chapel.
Yeah, but my toilet gets more action than any chapel.
Well, now, maybe a couple of decades ago, the chapel would have been.
You're right. Yeah.
So wait,
The
so
good
what's
old
this story
days.
about? So basically, they're setting up a fund.
They're addressing past wrongs, the church. They made a lot of money out of the slave trade in the 18th century.
Right.
And they want to give back. They're saying, look, these are not reparations, which means they are reparations. But the church is decidedly saying that's not what this is. They're saying that we recognize that the Queen, what's her name?
Anne.
Yeah, that one. Queen Anne's bounty was an investment sums in the South Sea Company. And the South Sea Company, between 1714 and 1739, was transatlantic slavery.
But so many, I mean, most rich people of the time would have had some kind of investment or connection.
Oh yeah,
with these
absolutely.
kind of, initiatives.
But there's some good news for us. I mean, I think I'm going to get a payout from this because they say they're going to support projects focused on improving opportunities for communities adversely impacted by historic slavery. Now, my ancestors their wages were actually undercut by the availability of slave labour. So I think I'm owed, all that backdated pay from my great-great-great-great-granddad.
This is the issue with reparations, is that how can you possibly quantify who is owed what? Because we're all of us descended from a combination of slaves and slave owners, all of us.
I'm going to give you some change later, because my family owned a mill in Virginia. The town was named after them. And my grandmother made it very clear that we had workers that we kind of owned. But she said they liked it.
Of course she's going to say that.
She was doing them a favour, Scott.
Well, they were shaped for that sort of work. And so she felt as though she'd done them a favour. So I've got some coins. I've got some chip.
I demand reparations right now.
I've got some homemade bread in my bag.
You know what?
And some bananas.
To be fair to the Church of England, they're not giving reparations to anyone. What they're saying is they're going to set up this fund to improve communities and areas that were adversely affected by slavery. Although, isn't that everywhere?
That's pretty much all.
And also, isn't that just what the church is supposed to be doing anyway?
Right. That $9 billion.
Yeah, instead of this big virtue signalling thing of like, we're going to end slavery that's already ended.
Well, the Archbishop of Canterbury has said, I'm deeply sorry for this. But who's he apologising to?
Well, I think it was
and what's he apologising for? Was it him?
It was him in a time machine. He got drunk and he started slavery.
That'll be it. OK, it all makes sense now, finally. We're going to move on to another story now. This one is from Wednesday's Telegraph. And is this the kind of school you would want to send your daughter to, Leo? What's this about?
Yeah, I would actually.
Really?
So, this school has banned pupils from hugging or having relationships. So I'm assuming it must be in Afghanistan somewhere. No, it's in Chelmsford. That's a bit of a turn-up for the books. So kids in Essex. I thought kids in Essex invented kind of shenanigans behind the bike sheds. But a letter sent by assistant head teacher Catherine McMillan says the school does not tolerate any physical contact between members of the school community. None at all. They go right into it. It's not just they're not just talking about any sort of romantic stuff.
No touching at all.
None
touching at all. Holding hands. Nothing at all. And
so if someone's upset, someone's just had a bereavement, you can't put your arm around them.
Pedo. Pedo. You're a pedo if you do that.
And if you're both underage, then you're double pedo.
But this relates to. This isn't about teachers.
Yeah.
Because I've been a teacher, and we know that teachers don't make physical contact with pupils.
Yeah.
Pupils making physical contact with pupils.
Yeah, they can't.
But that's insane.
No, look, I kind of like this in a way.
What?
Well, when I was in school, I didn't know kids were banging away. I thought everybody was as sterile as I was. And now I find out people were.
It's
it
not
makes
all
me
about
jealous.
sex, though, Scott. What about basic sort of humanity?
When you're 14, it's about sex, believe me. If you're a boy and you're 14, it's about sex.
But there is an issue here.
Cynicism, unbelievable.
What world do you live in?
Physical contact is necessary, apparently, for happiness. And that's why British people are so unhappy. They did a study that showed how many times two friends that went for coffee touched each other during like half an hour or something. And Brazil won the...
We are a
they
tactile
touched like
species.
230 times. Britain, the British people touched 0 times.
I just don't think that... I remember being at school, all that rough and tumble play, you don't... That's part of being a kid, right?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, and all the hiding it behind safetyism is ridiculous.
My neighbour Scott, he had the same name as I did, and I'd make him wear his underwear to play this game called Battleship.
This is a very different kind of anecdote and one that we will not entertain here. Let's move on.
He was my age.
No, Scott.
He had a mustache. I don't know.
Moving on.
He drove a car, but some kids mature earlier than others.
We're going to move on to the Mirror now, and it seems you can OD on pornography. Scott.
Yes. Well, a heroic porn-sniffing dog has died after putting over 200 sex offenders behind bars.
Sorry, say that again. A porn-sniffing dog has died.
He's died. He was only 7 years old. But that's, you know, about 84 to you and me. But anyway, he was a canine named URL from Weber County in Utah. Was only the 4th dog in the world to be trained as an electronic storage detection canine.
How does a dog... So I get sniffing out drugs because it's leaves and powder. How does a dog sniff out pornography?
Because he found things that led to them finding these porn producers. Like he sniffed out some keys behind a wall in a toilet. And when they found those keys that had been hidden there, they found what they were for. So he found... yeah.
Oh, that's actually quite interesting. I thought it was like you could smell the burning sulphur or something.
Well, hard drives as well, apparently. USB drives and stuff like that.
There's the dog.
Here he is.
He's very pleased with himself.
Yeah,
he
does.
Yeah.
Is that a Labrador?
I think it will be a Labrador. I mean, it is impressive. It's an impressive dog.
Yep.
He was partnered with Detective Cameron Hartman, and they did over 200 search warrants and found digital evidence of dozens of child sexual abuse material.
Okay, well, you know, it's a successful dog. There we go. We're going to finish part 3 now with The Express. And Leo, it looks like the police are finally going after some real criminals, right?
Well, no. The police are launching a crackdown on people who illegally stream Premier League games, which just seems there's so much knife crime, burglary, things like that. Happy slapping. I don't know if that still happens, but police this
not
week
a thing anymore, is
have
it?
decided maybe it's unhappy slapping the way the economy's going. But police will reportedly visit 1,000 homes this week as they attempt to get on top of the illegal streaming of Premier League matches. Because obviously the people who are suffering most in the cost of living crisis are Premier League clubs. Don't have enough money. Why is this? Why are the police doing it? They should have their own teams doing it. And you know why do the police only turn up? Your car gets broken into, your house gets broken into. The police don't turn up. If there's somebody sends tweets an abusive limerick or you know streams a Premier League game, they kick down the door. You know why? It's because these things are easier to deal with and they're nicer to deal with than getting somebody in a headlock who's got a knife.
But this is it is theft, though. I mean, it's clearly theft. They're not paying their subscription, so why shouldn't they be...
It's not theft, because they haven't stolen the thing. They've just made a copy of the thing. They're just watching it for free.
Yeah, but so if someone copied a DVD of your stand-up performance and you couldn't sell it anymore...
I put mine on YouTube for free, so everyone can enjoy it.
He's never sold a DVD.
What do you do after a show, then? You've got to have some merch.
T-shirts.
T-shirts,
yeah,
exactly.
Posters.
Kind of,
I sell links to illegal Premiership games. So.
What do you think about this story, Scott? Do you think this is fair that the police should be getting involved in this kind of thing, or are they getting their priorities wrong?
I think if someone breaks the law, they should be punished. Right. And I pay for my TV licensing thing.
Exactly. I don't think this is the same as people tweeting out offensive things, which is none of the police's business.
Yeah.
That's just free speech.
This is actual theft. This is theft. Why am I paying £178 a year to watch the BBC put me to sleep when these guys are getting it for free? Why?
Yeah, but it's not theft. Like, somebody steals your car, you don't have a car anymore. If somebody comes along and makes an exact copy of your car, how's that affecting you? They should, honestly, Premier League's got too much money. It's everybody's moral civic duty to go and illegally stream Premiership.
They are scum. The Premier League are scum.
Okay, but I will just add that GB News does not endorse theft in any way.
All right.
That's just Leo Kearse. Anyway, the last quick break, but do come back for why not coming back will make you happier, what bouncers are really looking for to stop you coming in, and we mock an American man. Easy pickings. See you in 2.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to the final part of Headliners, your first look at Wednesday's newspapers. And I am joined by Scott and Leo still. We're going to start with this on The Telegraph, and this is why Oscar Wilde might have ruined things for gay rights. That doesn't sound right.
Yeah, it's his fault. All of it's his fault. He ruined it all. Apparently in Victorian England, guys were picking each other up on the street all the time. Like it's happening a lot. Like, I'm sorry, you sprayed that spray and now I'm going to get cancer. We got a bug and Andrew space back. Anyway, and Leo warned him he did it anyway. So yes, there were men cruising the streets in Victorian England and other men picking them up. But these were men with interests that weren't just sexual.
But that's happened throughout history. There's nothing
But it
new
was
there.
prevalent in Victorian England.
Right.
But then in 1895, this wave of homophobia happened, and they're blaming Oscar Wilde in the story because Wilde was accused of being gay by that old Queen Queensberry.
Yes.
Right? And then he
Queensberry was right, by the way.
He was right. But, he accused him of being a posing sodomite. That's untrue. He was a sodomite. He wasn't posing at all. He's quite good at it. But anyway, Oscar Wilde sued him foolishly for libel, and the case, of course, went international. And it ruined Oscar Wilde's life and ruined it for gay people for quite a while.
Well, the point of this article is they're saying that just at that time there were these books, such as books by Havelock Ellis, trying to sort of say, look, being gay isn't a problem. We can make this work.
They were trying to frame it in a normal sort of way, which is impossible as gay men because we're freaks. But yes, they're trying, and thank God there's freaks in the world, but they were trying to frame it and say, look, we're also carpenters. And we also have, we have hugs.
We can give you wood.
We can give you wood, yes.
But he was, but they're saying that after the Oscar Wilde trial, effectively it became impossible to be gay.
Because the courts made it illegal, basically, to be gay.
And a lot of gay men ran off to the continent. They ran off to places like Capri and Naples. And
they did, and they're still there today. In fact, Oscar Wilde's grandson is still alive, and I don't know where he lives, but he's off somewhere, with somebody doing something disgusting, I'm sure. But the point is that they say that Wilde, because he drew attention to it, he made people self-conscious of it and made it an issue. And that, in a way, it reminded me of when I'm playing Abu Dhabi or Dubai or Doha, and they ask you, please just don't make it a political issue. You can do what you want indoors, just don't say that, as long as men who are locals there don't label themselves gay, they can get away with whatever they want.
Leo, is it the case that Oscar Wilde is to blame?
I'm not sure. I mean, this seems a bit of speculation, which apparently we're not allowed to do. But yeah, so Oscar Wilde, after his failed libel case, was he then? Because he was then imprisoned, wasn't he? So did they bring a criminal?
Very soon after.
Did they bring a criminal case against him after?
They did.
Right, and that was
2 years hard labour.
And they talk about in here. They talk about Wilde being seen as a symptom of a degenerate culture. How quaint that a degenerate culture would be seen as a bad thing. Almost makes you nostalgic.
That's how things have changed, right?
yeah.
OK, well, Leo, we're going to stick with the Telegraph and why looking at your face is depressing everybody. What's this?
So this says turning off the TV could really make you happier, but please wait until the end of the show. Apparently, every hour of television watched in a day increases a person's risk of depression by 5%.
Well, it depends what you watch.
Unless you're watching headliners.
Well, there we go.
It probably says later on. But yeah, apparently there's a link between sedentary behaviour and depression. I mean, I feel like we've known this since, 1895. If you just sit and you don't move around, you don't go outside and touch grass is the modern term for it, going out, running around, get some sun in your face, get some fresh air, you're going to get depressed.
Look, there's a lot of stuff that bashes TV and sort of says that TV is really bad for young people, etc. But it has been really revolutionary in terms of education, in terms of information.
Why are people dumber than they were 50 years ago?
Well, that's a very good question.
Yeah, you know, when you look at the way people respond or behave with one another now, and since we're on the point, you watch a film from 1970, you think, God, this film is so hard to follow. Why am I not paying attention to this? Because there's more than one character in it. And they're speaking.
Is it something to do with TV just being
past tense?
Like you think that TV and TV programs generally have been dumbed down quite a lot, and that's actually affecting our capacity to understand and follow intricate plots?
I think that people don't know how to take a joke anymore. I think that people expect themselves to be positively portrayed on screen. That's what they see on their phone. That's what they should see on TV.
Are people really getting more stupid, or are the tests just harder?
Well,
I think when you look at people in a club, or when you're out and about, watching people cross the street with traffic coming their way, and they're doing this on their phone, that looks like a stupid.
Well, they could be doing algebra.
No, that's depressing because people aren't interacting, and I think that's really what this is about. But surely television isn't to blame for that. There's all sorts of things to blame for that. Social media not being.
But screens are evil.
Exactly.
Screens are evil. We know that.
Well, but television. It's funny as the father or sometimes mother of a baby. I'm more worried about social media than TV. I'm almost like watch TV instead of using social media.
Well, of course, because social media is, you're exposing her to the whole world.
Yeah.
Whereas TV, it is a passive individual act.
Yeah.
But TV doesn't have to be antisocial anyway. But why does it make you depressed? That's what I don't understand about this
Sitting
story.
down, no sunlight, no fresh air, no, I guess, less human interaction. You need to go outside. You need to move around to be
When
happy.
I watch TV, I'm like, is this another program where a woman is being chased and then abused and tied up and then murdered? Another program with massive amounts of violence in it?
Are you just watching CCTV
and CNN? But what we tend to watch are things like, I just finished watching Howard's End, the 4-part series that was filmed on the BBC 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It was fantastic, and there wasn't one moment of any of that, and we could actually watch something that...
Well, all things in moderation, right? Watch a bit of TV, but get outside as well. OK, we're going on to the Metro now. Scott, it's a dog's life, isn't it?
Well, I guess so. That's why that term popped up, right? Because nobody can switch off like the man's best friend. But apparently dogs are having an existential crisis now.
So dogs are depressed?
They are, because this one dog, Bunny, his fan base grew online, so they started feeding it information in all sorts of different ways, alerting the dog when the owners were in town, or trying to get the dog to respond or react to certain sounds and certain visual stimulation.
Right.
And so they thought that they could somehow read what was going on in the dog's mind, and they found out that the dog wondered why the dog was even alive.
Well, I do not believe for a second that they can determine a dog's private thoughts. If the dog is depressed, maybe it's because it's called Bunny and it's not a rabbit.
But that's why dogs are so cute, because you can look at their face, you know exactly what they're thinking.
No, that's anthropomorphism. You're just sort of imposing your own emotions onto the dog.
I don't know what that word means. But what I'm saying is that dog...
This dog would, it knows 100 words.
Yeah, it does. More than 100 words. I know, so...
Do you believe this, any of this, Leo?
No, I mean, I don't think dogs can be depressed, but I'm not a dog. I don't know why anybody would get a dog or a cat or a stupid animal like that when you get gerbils or degus.
Well, the reason you get dogs is because they're affectionate and they like you.
Gerbils are affectionate.
No, they're not.
No, and they're fun.
They smell. Dogs...
They don't.
They do.
They smell like
That's
popcorn.
the dog, by the way.
Gerbils smell like popcorn.
Popcorn grosses me out. But also dogs can protect you.
Yes.
Like you live in the countryside, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Genghis Khan was protected by a gerbil. First ever pet gerbil. Bit an assassin's foot.
You're always on the show promoting gerbils. Are you being paid by the World Gerbil Federation or something like that?
By the WGF.
No, I've just realised we've got 5 minutes to fill.
Well, no, absolutely got to move on from that depressed dog story. We're going to move on now to Wednesday's Sun. Leo, and what is this place they're writing about? It's called a nightclub. What is a nightclub?
Well, yeah, I thought they'd all gone extinct, because of the high cost of everything, and everybody just meets people on Tinder now instead of going out and chatting face to face. But a venue, a nightclub in Perth in Australia, it's called Bar One, has brought in a bizarre blanket ban on red shoes, as bosses believe they're a red flag for bad behaviour. I mean, it's not actually that weird. This is stretching.
It sounds quite weird.
There's a trend going round, so I guess the ruffians. I don't know of a more. I don't know what the Australian term for that
thugs,
is.
the delinquents.
Yeah, the delinquents in Australia. Bogons, I think.
Is that what they call them?
Yeah,
okay.
Similar to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But there's a trend for them wearing red shoes.
Scott, you wear red shoes.
No, not in a long time. Not since I did that musical. No, I don't wear red. I ever worn? Oh, well, red topside. You know what topsiders are? They're sailing shoes.
But is it vulgar? Is it indicative? I guess it would make more sense if it was like banning caps because thugs wear caps so they can't be seen by the CCTV.
Right.
But a fashion choice like a red shoe? Why?
Yeah, but these kids are wearing them, and they're to identify one another.
You mean it's like a gang
yes,
thing?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's slightly different. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a kind of logic to it then. I just thought it was a really strict, bizarre dress code.
No, it's just so they can identify who's in the group and who's not. Also, the red shoes just identify them immediately as illegal behaviour. They want people to know.
Isn't there something about Australia, though? I mean, it's very kind of nanny status over in Australia. So I remember being in Sydney, and they had a curfew, so you couldn't buy a drink after 10 o'clock or something. And they basically wanted it, and this was before pandemic, by the way.
Yeah.
This was just because they thought people would go out and fight. And I think there's something about the culture over there, which is about...
they did have a culture over there of there's a lot of violence, a lot of one-punch murders. So people get punched and fall over and crack their head.
Really?
Yeah, especially in Perth, funnily enough. So there was, and now they've brought in. There's some extreme law against punching people in the head. But also,
there's always been a law against that.
This isn't the nanny. Yeah, but they made it much harder.
In Adelaide, they've been burying kids for years. They found all sorts of, dug up all sorts of kids.
There is creepy stuff that's gone on in
and this isn't the government coming in and banning people wearing red shoes.
This is one nightclub.
This is one nightclub. And nightclubs are always... I used to work in a nightclub, and they're always coming in with strange rules.
Were you a bouncer?
I was for a bit. But I stood outside it trying to get people
just
to come
because
in.
you're tall?
Yeah.
You handed up
Thanks. I thought you could say it's like, because I'm obviously like Andrew Tate level ninja.
No, I would say that if they got to know you, Leo, they would know that you would be the most ineffective.
Did you flyer the venue? Did you hand out flyers trying to get people?
Yeah. I stood outside trying to get people
hey,
to come
babe,
in.
all the babes.
Yeah.
Didn't you have to deal with like drunk people just trying to wheedle their way in? And because I can't imagine you throwing people out. I can't see it, can't picture it.
No, I don't remember telling people to get out. And they didn't.
You just used your withering
but then I had a radio.
Wow.
I could radio for tall.
Did people offer you drugs? They did
they? Yeah, there's a lot of... this is before all the SIA stuff.
We're going to move on because we've got to get our final story in.
Right.
Much as I love hearing about Leo's background, we're going to finish with the Mail. A good old bit of finger-pointing stuff.
Right. American man is mocked by Britons for drying out the electric kettle. Apparently,
what?
Well, yes. Every time, if friends stay at our flat here in London, when we leave, we come back, they've thrown away that little thing in the kettle. You know what I mean? That keeps it from rusting. Yeah, because they're foreigners and they're drying. They wash the kettle and they leave it to dry overnight.
Well, they don't know how to use a kettle.
No, we find it in the rack drying.
Oh, there it is. There's an image.
No, seriously.
What, you're saying this is a common mode of behaviour?
They want to wash the kettle and they think they're doing you a favour when they do this. Yeah, and this American guy did it.
Self-cleaning is
and
it's full of boiling water. It disinfects.
His British brother-in-law filmed, took the video he'd shown of himself drying the kettle and posted it, and it got loads of likes, and it became viral because, of course, all the British people responding were like, "Why is he doing this?"
Don't you have kettles in America?
No, we don't. Not like that. Most people boil their water on the...
a sort of medieval peasant?
And it takes hours to boil a kettle in America because they've got 110 volts. You can't even kill yourself.
I have a kettle in San Francisco in our flat there, and people come over like, "Ooh, what is that? It's electric kettle."
Honestly, Scott, Americans are absolutely
one by one, I'm educating them. I'm doing my best. I'm in the front lines.
And your plugs are rubbish.
Got to end the show there. That is it for the evening. Thank you to Leo Kearse and Scott Capurro. Headliners will be back tomorrow with Leo in the hot seat with Catherine Henson and Nick Dixon. And remember, Headliners is repeated at 1 and 5. You might be up right now in the morning. If so, do stay tuned for The Breakfast Show, which will start just after this break. Farewell.
Who's Nick?
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB+ radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. There's never been a more interesting but also critical time in British politics, and I can't wait to bring you the biggest stories of the day with the best factual accuracy and also a few of my own opinions thrown in. We'll engage in passionate but always polite debate with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12 on TV, on radio and online.
Hundreds of migrant hotels are filling up all over the country. Now it's beginning to affect big wig Tories, including cabinet ministers, will be going live to a village in Northamptonshire, whose population may be about to double. We'll discuss the government's new proposed trade union laws. Do they make sense for vital public services to continue, or are they infringement of workers' rights? We'll talk about a cricket club that's being asked to close down because neighbours don't like balls thwacking against their fences. And Jason Cundy, former footballer and now successful broadcaster, will join me on Talking Pints. Before we get to that, let's have the news headlines with Polly Middlehurst.
Nigel, thank you, and good evening to you. Our top story this hour: unions have condemned a newly proposed law that will enforce minimum levels of service for public sector workers during strikes. And the government's confident it will be passed this year. The bill would apply to health, fire, education, transport and border security services. Under the new law, unions could be sued and staff could be sacked if adequate cover isn't provided. The leader of the RMT, though, has called it an attack on human rights, and the TUC says it's going to hold a national Protect the Right to Strike Day on the 1st of February. The Business Secretary, Grant Shapps, told Parliament the measures would protect the public.
To deny and to vote against legislation that brings in minimum safety levels to help our constituents is to attack their security and their welfare.
Well, Labour has vowed to repeal the legislation if it wins the next general election. Deputy Leader Angela Rayner says the NHS was failing well before the strikes.
Is my constituent Spina, who waited over an hour for an ambulance, who died waiting for an ambulance, and that was not on a strike day. That is because of the disastrous chaos we have in the system under this Conservative government.
Primary school teachers across Scotland went on strike today, and secondary school teachers are due to walk out tomorrow after failing to reach a pay agreement with the Scottish Government. Unions are demanding a 10% pay rise, but the Scottish Government has offered 5%. Scotland's Education Secretary says she'll leave no stone unturned to find a quick resolution. The family of a British man who's gone missing in Ukraine say they're very worried and concerned about his health as well as his whereabouts. Ukrainian police say Chris Parry, who's aged 48, and another Brit, Andrew Bagshaw, who's 28, are voluntary workers. It's understood they left the city of Kramatorsk for the town of Soledar on Friday morning and were reported on Saturday evening missing. The region's currently under intense fighting between Kyiv and Moscow's forces. And as you've been hearing throughout the day here on GB News, Prince Harry's memoir, Spare, has become the fastest-selling non-fiction book ever, with 400,000 copies sold on launch day alone. But GB News has been uncovering some inconsistencies in the book, where the Duke of Sussex, for example, writes he heard about the death of his great-grandmother, the Queen Mother, in a phone call whilst he says he was at Eton. But photographic evidence shows the Prince returning from a skiing trip to Switzerland with his father and brother at the time. Representatives of the Duke have been contacted for comment, but has so far declined to do so. That's it. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. You're with GB News. Now, back to Farage.
Good evening. This programme has talked, I would guess, more than any other media programme about what's been going on in the English Channel. One of the reasons is much of mainstream media really didn't want to cover the story. It was all too awkward. But I do sometimes think we don't talk enough about the impact of tens of thousands of young single males coming into the country. At last count, 420 hotels around the country have been filled up with migrants. The waiting list of those whose asylum claims have not yet been processed is a staggering 140,000. And whilst the weather may have been very windy so far this year, some people estimate that up to 90,000 people could cross the English Channel this year unless the government actually does something. Well, of course, Rishi Sunak, in his one big speech since he's become Prime Minister, has said, Pledge 5, stop the boats. He will stop the boats. But frankly, we've been hearing this from Conservative leaders, from Home Secretaries, year after year after year, with no difference other than it simply just gets worse. Well, today we're going to look at a couple of case studies. One, which looks to me, although the villagers in Northamptonshire are about to lose, another in Yorkshire, where there appears to have been a bit of a reprieve, but what does that mean for the rest of the country? And my simple question to you at home is that at what point do we simply say, enough? Let me know what you think. Farage at gbnews.uk. Well, let's go straight to rural Northamptonshire. I want to say rural, I mean it is rural. Cretan is a village of 500 residents. The hotel in question is a 17th century manor. Our reporter, Paul Hawkins, is there on the ground. Paul, this is Chris Heaton Harris's constituency. What's the story?
So the story is, Nigel, that we are just outside Highgate House Manor Hotel, or as it was a couple of years ago. A hotel that's been closed for a couple of years because the family-run owners couldn't make it survive as a business through COVID. Now, they offloaded it to another company, and as we understand it, as the local Cretan